And I want to run for Attorney General because those offices are similar in that they allow you to essentially solve problems. I go to work every day to focus on solving problems for Nevada. And I get to enforce the law and make sure that Nevada is a better place to live. As Secretary of State, that's meant working with people, individuals, and groups and organizations that many of you participate in to try to expand the opportunity to vote, to work on expanding voter registration through online registration, to work on expanding the right to vote through our early vote program that I think is one of the best in the country. To work on championing campaign finance and ethics reform, to work through the Securities Division to make sure that we crack down on these con artists that come and prey on our aging population. We've returned millions of dollars in restitution, and I thank you for the opportunity to get that job done. And as Attorney General, I'll build on that work and my experience as a criminal prosecutor to go after the bad guys and protect Nevada families. But I got to tell you, there are some significant out-of-state forces that are trying to prevent me from getting that job done. And 3 key points about that. One, you've probably seen these attack ads that started running in March. Absolutely unheard of. Flooding the airwaves with $500,000 in attack ads. Their spokesperson for this mysterious group has said that their primary mission is to try to stop me in November. These same groups refuse to follow our disclosure laws and let us know who's funding these campaigns. I think we have a pretty good idea that it's the Koch brothers and some of those people that I've taken on as Secretary of State, but we don't know for sure. And unbelievably, get a hold of this. Dick Cheney said just a few weeks ago that this race is the most important state race in the country for Republicans.
Wow.
Remember that guy?
Yeah.
Why? Because they wanted to see the state's top attorney and the state's top law enforcement officer to look fundamentally different over the next 4 years and beyond. And so what does that mean on a fundamental level? Well, let's take a look at one issue. That means that if we don't achieve victory in this race, our state's top attorney will fight to keep discrimination enshrined in our laws. My opponent, a Tea Party extremist, has written that, quote, homosexuality and its integration into society are anything but certain. He suggested that gays and lesbians are people he can, quote, learn to tolerate. Look at some of these graphs. He has defended and sympathized with those who would commit hate crimes. Just absolutely vile stuff. Now, I recognize that Nevadans may hold a wide range of views on marriage equality, but my opponent's views on this issue, on gay rights, are dangerous and the definition of extreme. Someone who openly questions the place of gays and lesbians in our society has no place serving as the state's top law enforcement. This is no abstract policy difference. This is about human lives and about humanity in our society. And to that point, some of you were with me on October 1st, 2009. Proud day. Maybe one of the proudest days I had as Secretary of State. As you know, many people in this room worked aggressively on the domestic partnership law. We faced a tough fight in the legislature. Our legislators managed to override the governor's veto to give my office the authority to administer that program. On October 1st, 2009, that law went into effect. Proud day. And on that day, we had some people in for breakfast that were going to become the state's first domestic partners. We opened the door, we signed some of those certificates, and our state's first domestic partners were interviewed by the media. And I'll never forget this. The first state's domestic partners said, look, they said, what does it mean to be the first domestic partner in the state? And he said, look, I was with Ross's dad. This has been a period of some ups and downs on this issue. I remember in 1993 when the Supreme Court upheld felony convictions on 4 men for engaging in consensual sex under the state's anti-sodomy law. I stood with Ross's dad in the governor's office when he signed the bill in 1993, repealing the anti-sodomy law. And I remember what a proud day that was. In 2002, the marriage prohibition, gay marriage prohibition, was put on the ballot. And I remember when the results came in, and we lost that by a margin of over 45 points. And I remember what that felt like, to be discriminated against and feel in a very real way that people didn't look at me in the same way that they looked at other people, and how hurtful that was. He said, so sitting here today in the state capitol to get the certificate, I can't tell you what it means to me to be seen as an equal. And tears started to run down his face. And that was a proud moment for me to be able to be with him on that day. But it wasn't long-lasting enough. And I think we all knew we needed to go further. And just last October of last year, I got a call from a very close friend who'd been with his partner for quite some time. And he said, look, I think I want to make a commitment. And so we want to take the next step. We want to get a domestic partnership certificate. And what he also explained is that, you know, as you know, my partner Lance is suffering from a terminal disease. And so as we begin to look into it, unfortunately, under the state's domestic partnership statutes, the insurance that he needed to be able to get the treatment that he needed wasn't effective with the state's domestic partnership. He says, I think we need to get married, because he hasn't had basic treatment in over 6 months. Because even though we may have a partnership on paper, it doesn't mean enough in the state of Nevada for him to be able to get basic treatment. And he's suffering. So we had to fly to California. And I stood with him. I was his best man at the wedding in Los Angeles, and watched them exchange their vows. And what a proud moment that was for me to be part of that. Unfortunately, when we were standing together, we thought that they'd have a few good years together. We knew that it wasn't going to come out very well for Lance at the end, but unfortunately, it ended a lot shorter than that. And on March 18th, unfortunately, Lance died. And a couple days later, I got a call from Dr. Mike, and he's in absolute panic. He says, you know, I'm down at the coroner's office, and you know, I know you told us that we, in addition to the marriage, also should get the domestic partnership certificate, but because the marriage was in California, and I don't have a domestic partnership certificate in Nevada, there's nothing here that they can recognize. They won't release Lance's body to me. I can't take care of the funeral arrangements. So he had to go to family court in order to get a hold of Lance's body so that they could commence the funeral arrangements. Now, to make a human, any human, go through that just isn't where we should be in this society. And so that's what this race is. There are 135 days left in this election. And this decision that Nevadans will face about my race for AG on November 4th will have a very real influence on people's lives. So let's remind them that there's no place in this society for an attorney general who will, quote, tolerate our friends, neighbors, and family based on their sexual orientation. This country was founded on the basic principles of work, family, faith, individual liberty, faith, tolerance, and inclusion. And my friends, let's remind them on November 4th that we are all equal. Yeah.